Okay, let's dive into roster construction now. But before we do, I just want to reiterate that this is just a way to how to go about building lineups. I just don't feel comfortable giving out strategy as a player that hasn't had the type of success in NFL that I'd like to. There's a lot more people that are much more qualified than I am. So what I can do though is show you some of the back end ways to give you a good enough foundation to learn from guys like Manny and Petty Theft and be able to take the article that Drew or some of the contributions from guys like Drewby and Mike and Ricky over at Daily Roto or Matt and his team at Saber System and build. So again, you guys are the owners of your DFS businesses. You guys have to make the decisions that are best for your business, not me. But with that in mind, let's talk about some ways to go about roster construction. So one of the topics that I got asked about is mass multi-entry strategy. So we'll talk about some of the foundational strategy, but as to how which players you should play and things like that, I'm going to leave that up to the experts that are much better at that than I am. So the two big main strategies for MME tournament strategies is stacking or group stacking. We talked about a little bit in one of the earlier videos. Basically, traditional stacking is a quarterback with a pass catcher. A game stack would include a quarterback plus a pass catcher on his team plus an opponent. And again, in NFL, we want to try to, as best we can, find the shootouts. So I'll show you one of the things that most of the sites use. I mean, it's okay information. It's not my favorite, but again, what do I know? So we'll walk through the different strategies of the stacking versus game stacking. Groups is my favorite way to go, but I'll show you the traditional way to build a stack. And then player pool do's and don'ts. So just some quick tips here. We got a lot to cover, so we'll just go piece by piece. So the first thing we want to look at before we build our group is, so 5Dimes is a handicapping site, informational site, betting site, whatever you want to call it. And they have, let's scroll down to the week 1 lines. So I'm just going to give you an idea of what to look for. So over here on the right are all of the over-unders. So these are considered what's called the total. The over-under is also known as the total. These right here, these are your point spreads. And then these are your money lines. For those who don't know, point spread, so right here, in this game right here, the Bears have to beat the Packers by more than 3 to win the bet. On the money line, it's more expensive to bet, but the Bears just have to beat the Packers outright. And then for an over-under bet, more than 46 points is the over, under 46 points is the under. So we're just going to scroll through here and look for the highest totals, see a 52, 53. So this looks like the highest total of the game, this Texans and Saints game, but that's not going to be on the main slate because it's a Monday night game. But that might be one to get exposure to for the 16-game slate if you feel like, hey, I want to play the highest total game. I mean, that's one way you can go, but that's what everyone else is going to do, so just keep that in mind. So it looks like this 52.5 right here is the most. Just want to do one last check. Okay, so we're going to look at this Chiefs and Jaguars game, and we'll build. So first, let's go ahead and isolate that game. So we want to remove all. So when you do remove all, that'll take everybody out of the player pool. But if you click a team, so we're going to click on the Chiefs, we're going to click on the Jags, it should remove every player but guys from that team. So done correctly, we have 28 in our pool. And let's first off, let's go back to our settings. I like 3 unique, so I have 3 unique. I don't mess with anything else. But you could mess with this if you're like, hey, I just want to run a running back at flex. Viable way to go. Or like, hey, I don't want a tight end at flex. Don't click that button. So we'll just leave that. And let's go for the rules here. So I'm going to show you how to build a traditional stack the traditional way using rules. So it's pretty not self-explanatory, but the directions are pretty clear. And you can always hover over these info boxes or refer back to this video if you forget. So we want to set a rule. We want to set a parameter for the computer to follow. So we want to stack a quarterback with at least, let's say, 1 player, and we want to make sure. So the Chiefs will throw to the running back, so let's include Williams, and we know they have some powerful wide receivers, and Kelsey is also in play. And position from the same team, you can choose opposing team or the same game. So for this, just as the traditional stack, we're going to choose same team, add stacking rule. We'll close it out. We'll lock Mahomes. We'll put our player pool back in play. And we're in our pool. You always want to make sure you have my projections selected, and we'll just run 5 to keep it quick. And what we should see is Mahomes with at least one teammate in every single lineup. So we have Mahomes and Sammy, Mahomes and Sammy, Mahomes and Williams, Mahomes and Sammy, Mahomes and Sammy. So this is where the traditional stacking could be more challenging than groups, because what's missing here is no Kelsey and no Tyreek Hill. So we're really trusting the projections to do their job, but there's more nuance in that. We know that Mahomes, if he throws 3 touchdown passes, chances are they're not all going to Williams. They're not all going to Sammy. If they are, I mean, that would be huge. All of this are your player exposures over here on the left. So we have just Mahomes. We have our running backs. And again, you can cap these positions if you want to. I'm just not going to bother with that right now. So let's go and let's add another rule. So let's say we want to change this to a game stack. So same game, and then we're going to increase this number from 1 to 2. I usually delete these as I go. I just don't want it to get confused. I don't know if you need to or not, but I just delete it. So what we should see here now is a Mahomes with at least 2 players from the game. So we're going to see Sammy and Williams, Sammy, Marcus Lee, Fournette, Watkins, Mahomes, Williams, Watkins. So, I mean, these are okay. These aren't great lineups. And when I say they're okay, it's like you just have to walk yourself through the game. It's like, is there a scenario where Mahomes and Sammy go off and Fournette does something? Yeah, maybe. But is this a more likely scenario? Mahomes to Sammy, Marquise Lee back. Yeah, that is. So let's just do one more. This time we're going to change it from 2 to 3 and see what type of lineups we get. Again, we're only running 5, so we're only running 5 lineups, so it's not really going to paint as good of a picture as it could, but I just want to show you guys how these tools work. So now we're starting to see a little bit more of some diversification. Now, this is a lineup right here. If the Chiefs are going to be heavily owned, this is the type of lineup to be different. You have 2 Jaguars pass catchers coming back. You know, something like this, you know, Mahomes, we know Williams can catch passes, plus Dede, plus Sammy. Now, these are looking a little bit better. These are something that I'd be having a little bit more confidence in. Again, I don't want to tell you how to play the game. This is just what I would be looking for. So now that you guys understand how stacking rules, so let's say, I mean, this is the most efficient way to do it, but let's say you wanted 2 players from the same team and you wanted to add this stacking rule and you wanted 2 players from the opposing team. This is another way that you could do it. It would accomplish the same thing. So what we should see is Mahomes plus 2 Chiefs plus 2 Jaguars, which we're clearly seeing. Now, here is something that is to be considered. The limit rule, this is kind of sneaky. So right now, the Jaguars, I don't know why I said it like that. The Jags, their tight end situation, they have a 3rd-round rookie in Jeff Swaim over from the Cowboys. So this might be a scenario where we want to put a limit rule. So we want to limit the tight end from the same team unless he's paired with his quarterback. So basically, let's go back and let's add our 2 player from the same rule. So basically what we're telling the computer is we want, the only time we want a tight end to show up in this game stack is when he's paired with a quarterback. So this is a good rule to have if the other team's tight end isn't, you know, a known pass catcher, or he's primarily used as a blocking tight end. I don't know how they're going to use Jeff Swaim week 1. I wouldn't use the limit rule in this situation because I think Swaim, if he is, you know, asserts himself as a starter, could be, you know, someone sneaky if on coming back the other way, and he'll be cheap and low owned. So, in terms of strategy, that's the stuff that I try to take a look at is who's going to be low owned, and that's a way that would be a good way if the Chiefs are chalk and you have Mahomes plus Williams plus Tyreek with Jeff Swain coming back, and Jeff Swain scores a touchdown. All of a sudden, your Chiefs stacks are going to have a lot more advantage over the field than the people that are probably putting D.D. Westbrook or Leonard Fournette. Marquise Lee isn't even off the physically unable to perform list yet. So, and again, this is early. We're just using the free trial that Daily Roto put out. We don't know if these projections are going to change or how they're going to change over the next couple weeks. But that's the difference between a traditional stacking rule and the limit rule. And so let's go back to groups. Now, the rule of thumb that I use for groups is market share. So I want to show you guys another little trick. It might take a second because it looks like we've had some slower lag, but this is another really cool feature that FantasyCruncher allows. So let's go back to, let me see if I still have it up. No, I closed it. So let's download the projections again from Daily Roto. This is a pretty slick way to go. And again, there's probably somebody out there, Manny probably has a better way to go about doing it. I don't know a better way, so it's the best we got. So let's pull up. This is what I do to build groups. This is a trade secret that I'm going to share with you guys. I know this works. This is something that did work well for me last year. So one of the additional things that you can do with FantasyCruncher is you can add custom columns, which makes sorting information really, really useful. So we're going to add a column, and we're going to call this the market share column. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to market share. Let's see, market share targets. Actually, we need to paste this correctly. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So we need the player names to match up the column exactly from copying and paste it from our CSV to our upload page here on Cruncher. And let me get rid of everybody with a 0. Perfect. Okay. So you upload, and we'll probably get the Uzama error message. There we go. So again, everything in green was loaded correctly. We moved successful rows. We know that this was missing the abbreviation. You okay, bud? All right. So now you have to, so if you go to this, see this red message, you can now upload data and then refresh the page to see your newly added columns. So we're going to refresh our page here real quick, and we should see the market share column. Perfect. So now let's build our group. Sorry, I just think there's something with recording that, there we go. All right, let's remove all. Chiefs, Jags. Now, this is the quickest, most efficient way that I know to go about building groups. I don't want anybody in my group that does not have at least a 10 market share. So these are percentages. So for instance, what this means is Travis Kelce is targeted on 21% of the passes that Patrick Mahomes throws. So he doesn't, it's not necessarily catching that much, but that's how much he's involved in the offense. So you start getting into this area with Keelan Cole. Jeff Swaim I just talked about. I'm actually going to leave. I will make an exception for him because I think that's a way to be different in a chalky stack like we're looking at here. All these other guys, I'm just going to take out of our player pool. Obviously, you want Mahomes because he's the quarterback. So, and then you have to make the call. Do you want a running back in? I typically like to err on the side of leaving pass-catching running backs in and then taking out backs that don't catch the pass as much. But the reports on Fournette is going to be a little bit involved more in the passing game. They've said that in the past. I'm just going to leave it in because I think that if the Jags are going to hang with the Chiefs, again, you have to think about the game script. If this game does shoot out, how are points going to be scored? I think that Fournette is going to have to get to his point value. And he's relatively cheap. I think he was about $1,000 more this time. Well, we can actually look. So if you click on the player's name, it will actually show you what their salary was. So if you look at, yeah, exactly. So he was $7,100 last year. So Fournette is a sneaky guy. This is a guy that was $1,000 cheaper than last year and had a year from hell, and very few people are going to be thinking about playing him this week. So we're going to add selected to a group, create a group, and let's say that we think this game is going to massively shoot out. So we want Pat Mahomes with 3 guys. Don't forget to save. I should have done that first. And then I label Chiefs. And then I always write their name exactly how it is on FantasyCruncher. Just you don't have to do that. It's just some dumb thing that I do. Don't worry about it. All right, so now that we have our guys in our game stack, we'll put the rest of the teams back in our player pool. And let's change this to, let's just do 20. My projections, Mahomes. So if you go back to what we were actually, so if you ever want to restore a crunch, you just go here. So let's restore this one right here. Look at our exposures. No Fournette. We have some Jags exposures. No Hill. No Kelsey. Look at the exposures we get with groups now. We have both of the running backs. We have just about every single pass catcher. No Swain, but we got Kelsey. So groups give you more flexibility in that sense. I just like it. I just think it gives you more diversification in your lineup builds. Now, I prefer to isolate the quarterback and the teams and the games that I'm going to stack. If you wanted to let the projections do it, what you would then have to do is go to, let's say you were just going to build off of the projections. So if you go to quarterback, the quarterback that it's going to most use is based off of this, the value. So these are the teams that you would want to build game stacks for. So let's just do, let's see. Hang on a second, sorry. Had to move some dogs around. Sorry about that. Okay, so we'll just build like 2 quick groups real quick. Let's see. Let's build this Cowboys group. Again, sort by market share. And again, you'd have to make a judgment call on Witten, first year back. And then obviously we want Dak. And we're going to create a DAC group, save, lock DAC, DAC plus 2, do 1 and 1. So Cowboys, DAC, Prescott. And then the next quarterback that it likes, well, let's get our player pool back. Likes Wentz next, so we'll build a Wentz group. We'll let Goddard in. Wentz, create new group. And let's do Wentz plus 3. Eagles, Carson, Wentz. And then I think the last one was Kyler. All right, so we'll build a Kyler group. So this is the way that other people like to build, is they just let the projections decide who they get. That's a fine way to go. It's not what I like, being a little bit more hands-on, but these are really good projections. Taylor does a great job. So we have quite a few guys here in play. Oops. So let's make sure, let's just do Kyler plus 4. Cardinals, Kyler, Murray, lock Murray. And then I always go back and double check to make sure I have the quarterbacks locked and everything's saved. I just double, triple, quadruple check. I just want to make sure that, again, we should have our lineups in well ahead of time. That's another thing too, is put your lineups in on Saturday night. So if something bad happens on Saturday morning, you oversleep, you got to take the kids somewhere unexpectedly, you go to church and it runs late, you at least have something in and you're not scrambling. Always put something in on Saturday night. I should have addressed that in the beginning, but that's another little tip. And you can always rebuild in the morning, but at least you have something in and you're not left with your pants down. So we have no players locked. So let's run 30 lineups and see what we get. See, now this is where building groups and just letting it run can be a problem, because we saw that the top-rated quarterbacks were Kyler, Dak, and Wentz, but we didn't get very many of them. And that could be because we have too many guys selected. So the computer's evaluating Kyler plus all of these guys, and it's like, you know what? They're not projecting to be good values. Kyler's a good value, but none of these pass catchers. We have too many pass catchers here. So this is where adjusting your groups might come in handy. So let's just adjust everybody down to 1 and see if we get, let's do everybody to 2 and see if we get more of these guys. So no Wentz, but we did get some Kyler. So this is where the strategy comes into play. Do you want to manually pick the teams that you're going to stack, or do you want to let the projections decide? You, as the owner of your business, have to decide that. And in terms of your player pools, the do's and the don'ts, the big thing that I would say, and this is what Manny always says, is just put good players in your groups. If you've got, I call it the Seth Roberts test. So let's go to Daily Roto. Let's go to their stats from last year, targets. And let's go to the Raiders. So if you want to be extra safe, anything above Seth Roberts is a good way to go. Like, that guy was in so many optimal lineups because he would just be 3,000 salary and he'd be projected for 9 or 10 points, which isn't that much. But, I don't know if you can see it. I can show you. So let's see. Yeah, so he's min salary again. Just look, it's just like 2 times he got to value. All the other weeks he screwed you. 3 times. This is your baseline for player not in your player pool. You want people at least better than Seth Roberts in your player pool. So market share is what I use. But if you don't like that, or you want to use something different, or you want to use a higher market share, you can. But that's the big. I don't have a ton for player do's and don'ts because so much about DFS and winning tournaments is game theory. So I won't argue a lot of the times. If you're like, hey, I really want to play this team and I want to put this guy in with my group because I think this, that's fine. Like that could very well happen. And if that happens, you're going to do very well. So the biggest do would be think for yourself, make your own decisions. The biggest don't would be don't put players Seth Roberts or below quality in your player pools, in your groups. And we're probably looking at Seth Roberts having an amazing season now that he's with the Ravens, just because that's my rule of thumb, guys. So hope this was educating for you guys. I hope this helped walk you through. There's so much that goes into building football lineups. It's extremely fun. So I just encourage you to work on the settings that you like the most and go crazy. It's really fun. It's probably the most fun sport to build for is putting together your football lineups. See you guys in part 6.